Hey guys, it's KJ, Coach KJ here today, and I am with Geovani Galvez. And I wanted to talk to you about a subject that's very serious. I want to start off with saying that communication is, there's a 7-38-55 rule. 7% of communication is actually the words that we speak, 38% is the tone of your voice, and 55% is body language. And one of the challenges is that with people, one of the repeated sources of suicidal ideations and attempts is the inability for someone to clearly communicate the urgency, the depth of their pain, and also communicate the need for validation or affirmation that they're going in the right direction. According to World Health Organization, there are 700,000 people who die annually from suicide. Suicide is the fourth leading cause of death for individuals ages 15 to 19. And according to the National Academy of Medicine, before the pandemic, physicians were at a rate of 2 times, their burnout rate was 2 times higher than the general public. And also there was a 40% rate of depression and suicidal ideations. After the post-pandemic, it is a 60% to 75% rate of suicidal ideations. A little bit more about the health industry. 20% of first care responders have quit since the COVID epidemic. And the question is, why aren't? A question that's often asked is, why aren't first responders asking for help? Why aren't they going to somebody asking for help? And Kaiser Permanente did a study on this, and the reports were that 57%, please forgive me, 57% of first responders fear negative repercussions from speaking up, and then 40% fear being demoted or fired. Today, we are honored with the privilege of speaking to Geovani Galvez. Geovani Galvez has been in the news recently. His son has actually is making some pretty strong strides against his third bout with cancer, and he's only 6 years old. His son's name is Levi, but Geovani almost was not here to see this miracle. A little bit about Geovani. He is an essential worker. He works as at an emergency, please forgive me, an emergency room financial counselor. He felt alone, hopeless, and without purpose in last year. And on July 19th, 2021, at 6 a.m. in the morning, after a long getting off work from a long work shift, he attempted suicide. But when Geovani said, this is the end, I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore, God said, no, there's more for you to do. After 5-hour surgery, Geovani recovered, and then he spent an additional 11 days in the hospital. 5 months after his stint in the hospital, and he had gone home to see his daughter, Violet, who was 4, his son, Levi, 6. 5 months after his return home, he was notified that his son, Levi, would be facing his third bout with cancer. There's a 10% chance of survival with chemotherapy, but there's a greater chance of survival with a bone marrow transplant. And luckily, Geovani was a 50% match for his son Levi in the bone marrow transplant. So because Geovani is here today, his son is also here today, and he has an opportunity. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to, first of all, say thank you, Geovani, for being here, for your willingness to share your story and provide hope for other individuals. And right now, Geovani is also in the hospital room with Levi. Welcome, Geovani.
Thank you.
Geovani, one of the biggest questions with suicide is, or with suicidal ideations is, first of all, tell me about that day. Tell me about that day. July 19th at work.
So I felt super lonely. and I felt like I didn't have a purpose. So I remember that day I got off of work and it was about 6, and I told 2 of the girls that I work with, that were close friends. I told them, hey, I love you guys. Take care. I'll see you guys next time. And that day I went home, was talking with my mom because I was staying at my mom's house, and I was told her, hey, just go to sleep, just go and relax. And I was waiting for my brother, and because I knew he had a gun. So as soon as he fell asleep, I grabbed this gun. That's when I drove off, and my mom called me. She's like, Geovani, don't do it. And I was like, Mom, everything's okay. Don't worry. And that's when I was driving, and that's when I shot myself. And I remember the aroma of the gunpowder just blowing through, and the pain and the blood that was coming out of my mouth because I had hit something. And that's when I got out. I was at the hospital, and something in me is like, just don't die right now. Don't die. And I got out. I fell to the floor. I tried to get up again, and one of the police officers from the hospital just by accident just turned that way, and he saw me, so he came out to see me and see what was going on. And that's when he saw that there was a gunshot wound, so they called the code blue at the hospital, and everybody came running outside. And I remember they just rolling me onto a bed and saying like, what happened? Did you shoot yourself? And I told them, yeah, I shot myself. And the pain was just unbearable. And I remember they were starting to cut around like where I had shot myself. And like one of my friends, that because I knew the people at the hospital, they were telling me, Geovani, don't die, don't die. And it was a day I will always remember because everybody kept me alive for a reason. And I think I was probably only there for about like 20 minutes, and they told me, we're gonna rush you down to another hospital, and that was a trauma center here in downtown where I work at. And from there, the pain was just so horrible, and because I couldn't breathe, but I wanted pain medication, but the pain was so horrible, but they couldn't because my blood pressure was so low. And I think it got down to 70/38. So, at that point, because of the volume of blood loss, your heart pretty much can't pump anymore. So I could have died right there. But from there, I got to Methodist where I work at, and they took me straight to one of the trauma rooms, and trauma team was ready there. And I remember one of the nurses told the trauma team, they're like, he works here, so let's take care of him. And they assessed me real quick, took me down to CT, and they told me, hey, we have to take you to the operating room right now. And from there, 5 hours later, I woke up in a bed, and my mom was there with Chaplain Thomas. And that's where my recovery started. And the pain was just awful. It was awful.
Explain the pain. You're saying you couldn't breathe. You couldn't. What was?
So I had, when I shot myself, so your heart's around here, and I shot myself right here. So I let me show that to you again. I shot myself here, and your heart's around here.
Holy geez.
So how is it that
did you notice? Did you know the distance before you shot yourself? Did you know how close you were to the heart? Were you aiming for the heart?
Because I didn't want to live.
Were you aiming for your heart when you shot there?
I was so nervous that I just pulled right there. But I'm thankful that I wasn't there, and because miraculously by some force out there, the bullet never hit my heart. it went straight down. And I look, I'm perfectly healed now, and I feel back to normal. But it's just God protected me.
How long were you thinking about this before you actually pulled the trigger?
Um,
I'm not talking about the act. I'm saying like, how long were you thinking like, I don't want to live? Not necessarily getting the gun. I'm just saying,
um, I was feeling a little depressed. It had been days I had been feeling that way, and just marital problems that were out of my control, and just yeah, and just something just pushed me that Sunday, and I had got home. I went to see my kids, and um, that's when my children's mom, she told me, came home that day, and before I left, she told me, my clothes was in trash bags, and she's like, "Don't ever come back home. Don't ever come here again." And that's when I was just like, I don't have my kids anymore, and so it's just like, what's what more do I have left here? So,
who
that
is the,
was so that happened Sunday, and Monday. That's when I was just like, I was just so low. So I was like, I don't know.
your heart was hurting.
Yeah, I really was, because my kids are everything to me. I've been with everything with my son, with all of his cancer battles. I've always been there, and to just have somebody just try to take them from me, I would never want to harm them. But it's just thinking that my life without them, I couldn't do it. And that was just the tip of everything that just broke. And it's so hard to ask help when you're the one that's always giving help. So I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody, and I just felt so alone. And I felt like nobody cared, but I don't know.
Or would they, did people listen to you? Did you ever give any indication of anything? Were there any signs? Did you do something different on that day? Or was something going on different like months beforehand, like that people would know that there was
I
a
was
change?
just I was just quiet. I normally, I always sit with a group of people, and I avoided talking to everybody that day. I was just quiet. I didn't really want to, couldn't focus on work. I was just, my mind was not there, because the thoughts were already racing, and I was just thinking a whole lot. And I had never felt that way in my life until that day before. And I think that's where the danger lies.
Was there anything that made you stop, or like, was there anything that was making you doubt doing it? Is there anything that you can think of that happened that if it had happened like maybe a little bit longer, you wouldn't have done that?
Felt like if I would have known that I meant something to somebody in this world, I wouldn't have felt that way so bad. But because the only thing I felt like I had was my kids. It's like how there was nothing to stop, because if they were grown adults, they could talk to me, they could be there for me. But because there is that mother figure in their life, I felt like I couldn't have access to them.
Mm. I mean, that's real. I mean, kids, like you said, your son changed your life around, being there and
Uh,
having his presence. When you woke up from the surgery, what was the first thing you thought, or what was the first thing you said?
I didn't think that I was going to wake up. I just remember going to sleep, and that was it. See, a lot of the times, when people, they come to the hospital and that they've been shot, the trauma team is expecting to just come in, crack your chest, and they're at any moment they're just gonna die because
Mm.
you know the blood loss that's inside you. So you know they pretty much crack your chest open, see if your heart's palpitating, and you know if they don't see any life, you know they just leave you there. So to be able to have made it to the operating room, that was another stage, but I could have died there too. But you know, obviously something kept me alive. So I think waking up and knowing that I had made it, you know, and having my mom there with me, and that it was a big moment. Just hearing her tears and being able to hear her one more time, you know, it was a huge relief. It was a
And
huge relief.
that was the purpose, that was the value, that was the love,
Yeah.
was the support that you thought was missing
Yeah.
along the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you actually see people who shoot themselves? Like, do you actually see that trauma yourself at work when you're doing the?
Oh yeah. So you know, I'm a financial counselor, but you know, I work for the registration department. So, you know, at some point those patients have to get checked into, you know, our hospital system so that the team can start working. So a lot of the times, you know, whoever, like, you know, when they tell us, hey, there's a trauma patient coming in, let's say trauma one like 5 minutes out, you know, somebody has to be there. So a lot of the times I'll be the person that'll go, and we'll see people like that, whether if it's really bad car wrecks or somebody who's been shot or stabbed, you know, that's the stuff I see at work. And, you know, I don't think that side of has impacted me at all, like in a negative way, but I guess I appreciate that side of it more.
Wow.
But I do see it a lot though.
You said your mom was there, and you mentioned Chaplain McCourt. I think it's McDore. You
Correct,
mentioned
yes.
Chaplain McDore repeatedly. I actually have a quote from you, a quote from Chaplain McDore. One thing that you said was, in one of the articles, you said, people see you smile and they think everything's perfect in your life, but nobody knows what's going on deep inside you. What were you thinking about when you said that?
You know, because I felt like I could hide it. You know, I felt that, you know, I could smile at you and, you know, act like everything was perfect. But the reality was, you know, I didn't feel that way. You know, I felt like I was so empty, and there wasn't a peace inside me at all. And it was definitely tough because I lacked purpose, and I didn't know what the meaning of or value of life at that time was.
Why did you feel the need to smile?
Because sometimes people will then start questioning you and asking you, hey, like, what's wrong? You know, is everything okay? But, you know, if you could just fake that smile, people will just think everything's fine. But, you know, was it really the reality? No, it wasn't. You know, there was something deep inside me that was bothering me that I had no control over.
Was there anyone there that you could have talked to, like, during that process, or anyone you felt would listen during that time?
Um, you know, a lot of people always say, you know, like they're really there for you, but you know, they'll never know what it's like to have a child go through cancer. So it's kind of tough to talk to somebody about that because it's tough, you know, or you know, a lot of the people who I work around, you know, they're like in their younger 20s. So, you know, I'm almost 30. So for them to understand what marriage is like or the problems that I've faced in my life, you know, it's kind of hard because they've never been in my shoes. So I've always felt like it's kind of hard to talk to somebody when I've never been there. It's kind of like me coming to you and giving you marital advice, and you're gonna look at me like, little boy, like you're crazy. Like I'm double your age.
Oh, wait,
No
wait, 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 say
offense.
that
but, but you know, like it would be hard for you to take that advice from me when I've never been there in your place.
Right, but wait, let's go back. I'm not double your age, right?
No.
Okay.
You're like in your 40s.
Thank you. You got purpose. Your purpose is nothing else to tell me that I'm in my 40s. You got it right there. Don't ever forget that. Woo! That double your age was scaring me a little bit, but yeah, you know, and sometimes because what you're telling people may be too heavy for them, right? They may not be able to really process what you're saying, and you can feel it. Like if you're in pain, right? And you're looking for an answer, you can tell when people don't have that true empathy or understanding or patience or whatever. So I think you become more in tune to that. I have two sons with autism, so I had to become very in tune to their surroundings and what was going on around them to, you know, to help them along the way. So I think when you're going through those types of things, you develop another sense. You mentioned also that Chaplain McDore, and I wrote down his comment because I thought that it went directly with yours. It said Chaplain McDore stated in his mission is to see beyond smiles and acknowledge the pain that people are suffering, not just physically, but emotionally. He's let people, I can't even read my own handwriting. He's let people know they are being heard. He seeks to validate their experience and feelings. And he said that he was actually shocked to see you in the hospital, Geovani.
Because, you know, nobody thought that would ever be me. You know, they see me always as the crazy strong one who's working 1,000 hours, because that's one thing of me is I have a really strong work ethic, and I would work 70 hours a week, 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day. Or, you know, I would always be that hardworking one, and they always saw me happy. So to see me that way was total shock to a lot of people, because they would have never thought that I was hiding deep that in me. And, you know, and that wasn't really the reality, you know.
Wow. So let me ask you, said something interesting. You said you did laugh. You did laugh a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the things that I've been reading. And as I read more and more articles, I'm hearing that people are stunned because the people who are committing suicide, attempting or committing, basically right about people who are committing, like the day that they talk to them, they're laughing. Everything's fine. Like people don't have a clue of what's going on or what's going on inside. So the question for me is if people, how could somebody have possibly had a clue? You said that day you were quiet. That you said that day you were quiet, but you never espoused, you never told anybody what was going on. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So they would
they would really have to get to know me to realize that something was wrong. But
and you didn't allow people to get to know you.
You know, I did. You know, I one thing I will always say is I try to be friends with everybody. I was friends with like doctors. I was friends with pretty much everybody in the hospital. I knew people I've been friends with that work in housekeeping, people that work in the kitchen. You know, I get to know everybody, and so
they were friends out here, right? Or out here. Who were the friends that were right here? Who were the people that were closest to you? Did they get to know you, or wouldn't they be able to see that there was something different?
It would have been so hard to, because you know, it's super hard to, like I always say, it's super hard to just tell somebody what you're feeling, because they've never been in my shoes. So it was like, you know, I'm pretty close to like my brothers, and it would always be hard to just tell them what, you know, having a son who's battling cancer feels like, because, you know, at that time, you know, I'm the only one that has any kids in our family. So it's kind of hard for them to know what it feels like, because, you know, he didn't have any kids. So I felt like that was always hard. Just that side of not knowing how to communicate with people.
Yeah.
You know,
I get it. As a mother of two sons with autism, and my daughter began college at age 14. So just imagine that spectrum, right? So yeah, and I was homeschooling the three of them. When we would go places with friends, a lot of times people say, "Oh, well, you could just do this and you could just do that." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. I
Yeah,
can't. My son
no,
Noah, he elopes and he will be down the corner if we
yeah,
don't."
yeah.
Oh no, no, just relax, just relax. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
No,
Turn my
no.
head and guess what? Noah's down the street, down the corner, because you know your child. And sometimes, like you said,
Yeah,
people who are not familiar with that stuff, it's harder to convey the urgency and the depth of the challenge. When when you left the hospital, or as you move forward, what would you say um, has kept you positive and kept you moving forward? Because um, the chances of once someone commits to or attempts suicide, there is a greater chance of them committing it once again, or doing it again. So what would you say has kept you moving forward, or initially kept you moving forward? Initially, I'm going to get to Levi in a second, but what initially kept you moving forward?
wow. So while I was in the hospital, so I spent about 8 days and about 1 day and a half in ICU, and the rest I spent on like the surgical floor where people recover. And then about 2.5 days I spent on, they have an inpatient psychiatric unit. So I was able to learn a lot of things while I was there. So one of the things that, I felt fine. I felt like, I didn't need to talk to anybody anymore, but the reality was I actually needed to. So, I was able to get in connection with a psychiatrist and speak to people, and, they, I learned about, coping mechanisms and, different things that I can do that are healthy so that I can, make a difference in my life. And I think that was the biggest thing. And, I always worked a ton of hours to avoid all my problems. In my mind, it's just like if I work a ton, I'm not gonna have to deal with her. I'm not gonna have to be around her. But and the reality was I was just avoiding and pushing off my problems, and they were just piling up. And that was the most unhealthiest thing I did, because it made it worse. And I felt like it was healthy of me working a lot, and it was because everybody needs money, but the reality was things were just getting worse, and it wasn't healthy at all for me. And I knew that I needed to learn healthier mechanisms, but I'm glad that I was able to learn those things when I was on, at the inpatient psychiatric unit. And everybody thinks psych, well, you're not crazy, because everybody needs some sort of help.
Did anybody go through it with you? Like, was your mom going through the coping mechanism process, or anybody else learning this as well?
Um, the coping mechanism process. So I was there alone, so they don't really allow people. Give me 1 second, let me silence this. So I was there alone while I was in on the psychiatric unit. But you know, one of the things that I wanted to change the way my life was, and I knew that's not who I could be anymore. So I definitely wanted to change for the better.
I ask that because if somebody else is going through it, if a family is going through it, if somebody has a child or a spouse who's having these types of troubles,
Mhm.
um, what would you say helped you, or what would you say they could use to help them get through the process? And then also, I know it's an ongoing process, but at what point did you feel like you had peace or you could move forward? Because I want people to understand it's not Kool-Aid. You don't just add the Kool-Aid, add the water, stir, and then all of a sudden you're up and everything's
Uh,
happy. It's a
uh,
process.
yeah. So I felt peace right then when I was in the hospital, and as pain and as painful as everything was, I felt the peace in me, because I felt that I was going to be able to talk to people, and somebody would understand me. And I was very overworked, and because I was working a ton and I wasn't resting enough, and I knew that it was something that I was going to need. And I felt peace in me at that moment, because finally I would be able to talk to somebody, and I would learn how to do things the right way, because I was obviously doing everything wrong by avoiding everything.
So if they could, so when people are going through these types of trials, maybe time alone, maybe time to reflect, maybe time to rest
Yeah,
is
definitely.
something that can, is everything okay?
So what?
Is everything okay?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Let me just press the nurse button. Give me like 1 second, real quick, and so they can come clear the air real quick. Hi, can Bailey come to our room real quick? He's having air in his line.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're fine now. Sorry.
No. Thank you. Thank you. I was just going to say, so probably the time to rest or something in between can actually help, time away from all the minutia or the things that are being done to mask can probably help people to restore
Definitely.
themselves.
Definitely. Time heals. And, that's probably the best thing you will ever hear is, sometimes you want to see those results fast, but the reality is you need time to heal. And I needed that. I needed to just get a break away from all my problems. And, there were some things that I was going to have to face afterwards. But, I needed that.
You're healed, you're restored, you're at home, and your favorite holiday of the year is about to take place, Christmas.
Yeah.
So you're at home, Christmas. This happened in
Yeah.
July. You're at home around Christmas. And then what happened? You got a call, what happened?
So we were Christmas shopping, and that's when I saw a call from the phone, and it was my son's oncologist. And normally if you get a call from them, it's probably not a good thing. Sometimes you get good news from them, but I knew at that point, it wasn't. And he called me briefly, and that's when he told me, we found cancer cells in Levi's spinal fluid. So that means that he's relapsed again, and I just started crying because I couldn't believe that it had happened again. And he's like, this time he's gonna need a bone marrow transplant, and we will see you next week, and we will figure out a game plan on what we're gonna do with this. So his mom was in the store, and I called her. I said, just come to the car. Let's leave already. It's not good. So I told her what the news was, and she started crying, and we couldn't believe it, because it's like, how could it be at that point? Everything was going so well with him, and I was actually in EMT school, so I it's just like how could this? But that day before that all happened, I was up. I was, like I said, I was in EMT school, and something in me was telling me, Levi needs you. Levi needs you. And I was just like, I didn't even know why I had thought that in my head or what was going through, but I didn't even know that was going to happen. But I think I heard that in my voice that night, because I knew that something was going to happen. And when I heard that phone call, I knew it was God telling me that Levi was going to need me.
Levi was going to what?
I knew that it was God telling me that Levi was going to meet me, because it was kind of crazy, because I didn't expect any of that, but and from there, the following week we had another we had a bone marrow biopsy. So what they do is it's sedated, so they they were going to do chemo as well and do the bone marrow biopsy. And, that was our appointments on Wednesday. So by Friday, our oncologist called us and the following Friday. So it would have been December 10th. And he told us, he's like, we didn't find any cancerous cells, in his bone marrow, but there is cancer again in his cerebral spinal fluid. So, it's at that point, that's everything that goes up to the brain. So it was a pretty hard blow. So, we continued that all through December, doing spinal taps on Wednesdays and chemo and steroids to try to get him into a place where he could be in remission. And then probably the only thing I wanted for Christmas was, knowing that he wasn't going to have cancer again. And Christmas came. And, we got together with our family. We were together. Levi was happy to see my brothers, and he saw the dogs, and, he was happy. And I got the call on the 27th, that Levi was cancer free again. That was quite an amazing thing. But, throughout that process, we had already been talking with the stem cell physicians as well to get a game plan for Levi. And I got the call, I believe also that week, that I was going to be the donor as well. So, it was it was an amazing moment because we didn't find any matches in the National Registry. And so his sister wasn't a match. She was 0 out of 10. And then his mom, they could have used her, but the thing is, women are more prone for autoimmune diseases as haploid donors. So that's where they chose me. That's where the whole purpose kicks in, because he wouldn't have gotten the transplant if I wasn't here right now.
I just want to say something. Your purpose is Levi, but guess what? Your purpose is so much bigger than that. Your purpose is you're going to heal people. Your testimony is going to heal and help people.
Yeah.
Your presence helped your mother, right? She was there in the hospital crying. Chaplain McDoor, he now has another perspective. He would have never thought that you were the person that would commit suicide or attempt suicide. And so now he has another perspective. And when he's talking to people and when he's looking at people, he's once again looking beyond the smiles, but he's looking at so much more. So your purpose for me, God, I mean, like I said, for me to have the ability to share this with people who listen, or somebody who may need it. I don't know who needs it. And I might share it with somebody and they may not need it, but they may share it with somebody else who needs it. So your purpose is Levi. Yes, he needs you, but a lot of people need you, and I hope you know that. I hope you know that. So not just need you to be happy for them. They need you to be a part of it. They need you to be a part of what's going on with them and to be active and to be present and not just, do the facade. So because people can learn and grow from us. I mean, one of my big things is I won most talkative in high school because look, if something's going on, somebody's going to know. And if I call you Geovani and you can't talk to me, I'm calling the next person. And if the next person can't talk to me, I'm calling the next, because I'm not going to stop until somebody knows, until I express what's bothering me so that I can move forward. But I'm going to express it to somebody who can handle it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to express to somebody who's going, yeah. Or say that I'm right when I'm wrong. When I'm wrong, tell me that I'm wrong. But you know what I mean? Like talking and communicating is essential. Now, I had you try, there is that suicide hotline, which I should have put up there first, which is 988, which is crucial. It's a new suicide prevention lifeline to help individuals who are going through crises, who have questions. If you might say, look, I'm not suicidal. I have what is called passive suicide. Like I think about it, but I haven't come up with a plan to do it. Having a plan to do it is active suicide. I think about it, but I haven't really actually done anything towards it. If you're thinking about it, anything, call the 988 hotline and ask the questions. Ask the questions, get the support. You don't need to be a superhero, you know? You don't need to be a hero to anybody. You need to be present for people, right? Because I'm quite sure, with you now being more in tune with things that are going on, and instead of just saying yes, yes, yes to make people happy, I'm quite sure your relationships have a deeper meaning for you and others. I mean, I'm asking, I don't know. I don't want to assume.
Yeah, they do. They do. Definitely with my older brother, we we can connect pretty well, and my mom too. But I'm glad I'm here today to share this.
I'm super glad. And like I said, more than me, there are many people who are glad and very grateful for your transparency. Because the other thing, Geovani, is a lot of times people, they don't tell what's going on. Like, I mean, even after the fact, no, I'm good or whatever, whatever. People are not as transparent. And the one thing that helps a lot of people is hope, like stories of hope. That's one of the things I hear all the time is, if I could have just heard something that
Yeah.
gave me hope, that let me know that it was going to be okay.
But there is hope out there. There are people that care out there. There are people that want to listen, but it's just the ideations blind you, and your mind is just so fucked up. And as soon as that happens, it just messes with your mind. And next thing you know, you're thinking all these things that you shouldn't be, and you just go so far downhill, and everything seems like it's not a reality. And I think that day I felt that there wasn't a light at the end of that tunnel. And I just felt so down and so low, and I couldn't do it anymore.
What did you do to make the difference? What have you done differently to make sure you don't get back there? Are you working less hours?
No, I still work.
Geovani, are you kidding me? Come on.
So right now, like I've been out. I haven't. In January, I was hospitalized with Levi for about 3 weeks, so I didn't work as much. I've been in the hospital since pretty much. I haven't worked at all. I maybe worked like 2 weeks in February because I'm out on FMLA with my son. So just being away from work has definitely helped a lot, being away and focusing on my son and being around them, and being able to wake up and play some video games, or then we play with Play-Doh, or we and we built some Legos. So just bonding time with him, it makes a big difference to just be away from things, and being away from the you know just away from everything that it's just it's I'm grateful for this time to be here with him. That's one of the biggest things.
And restore. So what would you say is your next step? What would you like to do next, or where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself moving forward? EMT?
Yeah, EMT, and then I want to become a paramedic. That's one of the things I want to do. I love the emergency medicine. I love the adrenaline. I love all that aspect, and I love all these things. So that's one of the things I want to do. But another big thing is working for the Trauma Survivors Network here for my trauma hospital that I work at. Pretty much, I would be able to share my experiences of hope with others, and make a difference. Pretty much doing what I'm doing now, and sharing my experiences, because a lot of people unfortunately don't make it. But this was that example of somebody who was willing to make a difference in their life and make a meaningful impact. And I feel like I need to share it with everybody. And I'm not doing it obviously for the fame, or or for people to feel sorry for me, but this is something that's real. I could have died, but obviously I didn't. And, I don't think you've mentioned my injuries, have you?
No, I haven't.
So, I had 3 rib fractures. They had to take out my spleen. They had to repair my diaphragm. And, I just have a massive scar to remind me of everything. It's like from here to here. So it's like a massive scar, but, it's like,
Wow.
but, to be able to be talking to you right now, it's like, if I was able to have a voice again to share what I went through, I feel like I just need to do it. Because, like you said, sometimes people don't feel like they want to share what they went through. It's not like they have to, or they don't have to give anybody an explanation of what they went through. But I feel like I should do it because I've always felt that sharing your experiences are what make you a better person. Like, because, so let's say if one thing is, I used to be a chef before. I always thought that, I'm only as good as what the people around me are. So what's the purpose of me knowing everything, but the person next to me doesn't know what I know? I feel like I should share those experiences so that we're all good instead of just me thinking about me. And, I'm not a selfish person like that. And by me willing to share that, I feel like I could change people's outlook a lot. And sometimes people feel like what they're going through is rough, but sometimes, I'm not trying to say like your situation is better off than mine or mine's better than yours, but it's just, we all have it rough, and we can make a difference.
Mm.
And
And with you doing all that you're doing now, especially with the paramedics and the trauma speaking,
mm,
you're doing the one thing that you said was missing in the beginning. In the beginning, you said what you were
yeah,
missing was
yeah,
purpose,
yeah,
and now you have purpose. And you
yeah,
can, sometimes people don't understand the depth of the pain, right? People are listening, the audience don't understand the depth of the pain, so it's harder for them to provide the empathy, meaning the families or the loved ones that will listen to this video, trying to figure out how to support their kids that are going through. But also people who are contemplating, who have suicidal ideations or thoughts, them understanding the pain that you went through, like the inability to breathe and the blood that was going through, and probably things were flashing through your mind of the deaths that you've seen beforehand. As you mentioned, the thought of not being alive, the thought of not being able to hug your mother again and hug your sons again and renew your relationship with your brothers, all those things, all those pains that you would have endured, and all those opportunities you would have missed if you weren't here today. People who are contemplating right now, they have an opportunity to hear that and also reflect, you know, reflect. One of my students told me, she said, you know what? She said, Ms. Jones, she said, yeah, a lot of us talk about suicide, et cetera, because we understand the pain that's going on. We understand all the things that we have to do, to save the environment, we have to save race relations, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do all these things for everybody else, and it gets tiresome. And it's easier just to die and not have to worry about those things. And then I said to her, I said, but look at this. I said, but look at how much fun you're having, because she was working with kids with autism. I said, well, look at how much fun you're having with working with kids with autism. I said, and look at the guy that just walked by that flirted with you and you smiled. I said, and look at how many students have come by while we were talking library. Look at how many students have come by and said hi. I said, you matter. You matter. I said, so yeah, you can't solve everything. It's not your job to solve everything, but you matter. You bring excitement, you bring joy, you brought laughter to me. I said, I'm pretty funny, but you're kind of funny too. And as we started to talk more and more, she started to realize, look, you know what, I really do have an opportunity to influence. I really do have purpose. Really do have a lot to give and offer. And once again, Geovani, if nothing else, I hope and pray that what you've said today reminds people that everybody here has a lot to give and offer. And everybody here has a purpose, and everyone is needed. Is there anything else that you can think of at this time right now that you would like to tell people who are listening to this, whether it be the caregivers who are supporting individuals who are facing some challenges, or the actual individuals who are having some struggles and contemplating on how to move forward?
I think that one thing that people should know is they're not going to be judged because of their circumstances, and there are some people who are willing to love you unconditionally. And they're there for you. And there's always hope. And, sometimes, I feel I stumbled across something that always stuck into me. Thieves don't break into empty homes. They break into houses that have valuable things because, we all have something valuable to give. But if you're that person that has purpose in life, somebody would want you off this planet, but there's a force that's acting against you. So of course those mind, your mind is going to be so clouded and so filled up with negativity. But the reality is we're all valuable and we all have something very special in us. And everybody plays a small role and we can always make a difference. But just don't don't lose hope.
Right. And for those of you who are listening, remember that it is important for everybody to receive some type of affirmation or validation, because it helps, hearing that hearing thank you, hearing that you made a difference, hearing all this other kind of stuff. Because once again, as Geovani said in the beginning, we just wasn't necessarily feeling needed or purposeful, etc. But knowing that and hearing that from his mom, hearing that from his preacher, seeing that with his son, it has made a huge, huge difference. If anybody is challenged, if anybody is struggling, if a parent wants to ask questions on behalf of their child, a wife wants to ask questions on behalf of their spouse, whomever, remember that number 988. They made it simple because, sometimes it might be hard to remember the number, the suicide hotline number, but 988 should be easier to recall. Once again, Geovani, anything else that you would like to share? I don't want to end before you have provided anything else that you think might help you in a way.
Anybody should feel that they can reach out to me too. I'll listen.
How can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me on Facebook. My name is Geovani Galvez, or they could send me an email at geogalvez@yahoo.com. And when we first shared the story on our hospital system, so Riley, I got emails from a lot of people through our hospital system. So I think there's like 35,000 people. So a lot of people reached out to me. Then we shared it on the news. Our local newspaper. So then that was awesome because a lot of people reached out that way, and they found me on Facebook and they sent me messages. And then we shared the story of me and my son last Friday, and that got shared as well. So it's pretty powerful because social media can be used for great things, but just to share the story of everything that I've lived within the last 6 months, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Why are people reaching out to you? What are they saying?
A lot of people are saying, you're strong and courageous for sharing everything you've been through, and thank you for sharing your story, because a lot of people won't do it, just because of what I said. They feel like they're going to be judged, and they feel like people are going to think of them differently because of what they lived through. But the reality is, that's not true. People really do love, and people do care for you.
Has anyone reached out to you and said that they were going through some of the same struggles?
Yeah. A lot of the people that, through the hospital system I work at, it's just, like I said, a lot of people, like we have our struggles, and I'm glad that people were willing to realize, like, hey, like, we're not perfect and we all need our help. And and some people were shocked because, that happened to me last July, and I've worked next to them, and, I've gave my 100%, and they would have never thought, like, how in the world did you do this? Like the day after I was discharged, I was back at work that next day.
I read that.
And my trauma doctor, I actually saw her that Saturday, and I went up and started talking to her, and I said, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I was like, "I was one of your patients," and she was like, "I have a lot of patients," and I was like, "I was the one who shot himself in the chest," and she's like, "Did I even clear for you to come back to work already?" I told her, "Yeah, your resident signed up on it," and she's like, "It's good to see you back on your feet again," because sometimes people just think that you're going to be at the lowest of your life and you'll never recover for something like this, but I knew I needed to be stronger, and I was stronger than all of this.
Love it. Awesome. Well, once again, guys, if you have any questions, Geovani is available. Please spell out your email address.
So my email address is GeoGalvez@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And
So
but if you also feel like you're in more of a crisis, reach out to that 988, and just be open, and be sincere of everything you're feeling.
right. Because if you're masking it, it's harder to help you. It's harder to get to the core of what the challenge is to really help you, right? Because if you're masking it, you're not being authentic, then sometimes people can get to a layer, but kind of like an onion, how you peel the onion. Yeah. That was kind of
Funny
good.
story. I was watching Shrek with my son, and that's a quote that they say in the movie Shrek.
What?
Ogres are like onions.
Wait, what's it like onions?
Ogres are like onions because they have a lot of layers to peel.
Wait, what's the first word? What's like onions?
Ogres, you know the movie
Ogres.
Shrek. Yeah.
Ogres. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Shrek. I was thinking of SpongeBob SquarePants. Okay, Shrek.
yeah. I was actually, yep. They say that in Shrek.
Wow. Okay. So, well, listen, once again, Geovani, thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate your time. And once again, I just hope and pray that this helps others along the way. I know it will. Thank you for everything.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.